Hi, Bright Days Ahead family. I'm coming to you from the banks of the Gelfa Creek in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And today I want to talk about RVing with dogs. Super popular, everybody takes out man's best friend, and we want to give you 10 tips on how to better RV with dogs. But first, we have something sad to say. Our dog Presley died this week. And it was really no fault of our own, and we're not quite sure what happened, but it's really been weighing on our heart that maybe we could make a little bit of good out of this tragic loss of ours. And so today we're going to go through and give you our 10 tips for better RVing with dogs. So watch along, and they'll even pay a little tribute to Presley. So first, we'll talk a little bit about Presley, I think. Yeah, so Presley was our golden doodle, and he was almost 8 years old. Christmas, he'd be 8 years old, and he was kind of the little love of our life. He left paw prints all over our heart.
He did. He was, well, after we got married, we got him.
Yeah, he was our first baby. Yeah,
and so he's been with us, well, 7.5 years, I guess, and he's been in a lot of states. How many states has he been in?
I think 33 states, 22 national parks. I mean, he traveled even before we traveled. We took him on that road trip his first couple months to North Carolina.
Yeah. Lots of national parks. He's traveled with us for the last 21 months we've been on the road, so he's been a big part of our life. And when we lost him on Monday, October 4th, it was sudden. We came back from a trip to the grocery store to pick him up some dog food it's kind of strange, but he was out of dog food. We went to get him some dog food. He came back and he had passed away. We think it may be a heart attack. We don't know. I didn't really go get an autopsy. Didn't think that was necessary. Just knew he was gone. So we learned a lot about that process. Some of the things we're going to cover in our presentation today, but at the end of the day, we chose not to get him cremated. So I had a little private burial service for him on the banks of Lake Michigan, right there in Benton Harbor, Michigan.
Yeah, St. Joe area.
It was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life is to lay my best friend to rest. So it's not getting emotional.
That's why I'm going to wear sunglasses.
We're all wearing sunglasses because we're emotional. So I think Cheryl was just one of the things we wanted to do in honor of Presley is to give some tips to fellow full-time RVers and those who travel with pets, particularly dogs. Give them what we think are some top 10 tips on traveling with man's best friend.
Yes.
So Cheryl did the blog already.
Yeah, so check out our blog at brightdaysahead.com. But we talk a lot on there about how to travel with young kids. So we do have twin 4-year-old girls, and it's worth mentioning how to travel with a dog also, because there's a few things that you need to think about before you set on the road. So the first one is designate a place in your rig for your dog to travel. So this one may seem obvious, but it doesn't matter whether you're in a Class A or Class C or a travel trailer. You need to have a designated place for your dog to travel. And if it is a motorhome like a Class A or a Class C, you might need to give your pet some time to adjust, as the motions of driving and that are very different from driving in a car. So you may be surprised that your dog may not adapt well from driving in the car. But then if you do have a travel trailer, now you're looking at keeping the dog inside the car with you. We do have some people, or know of some people, that travel with their dogs in the back. That's not recommended, and it's also, I think, illegal in a couple states. Mainly because it gets really rocky and bumpy back there, but then the temperature control. I know yesterday when we were driving here, we were up north and then came down here and it was 90 degrees, and when I opened up the rig it was 83 degrees when we started. So that's a concern that you got to think about your dog if you have him in the travel trailer. So where did Presley ride when he was with us?
Presley rode in the back seat between the twins. Daisy and Brighton, and then oftentimes he'd just get on the floor and lay down there. Because of the truck, we don't really have a hump on the floor, so it's a nice flat spot. He laid there, so it was a good spot. And some people with smaller dogs consider seat belts, and that's something you could look into, but it just didn't work for Presley, and he travels probably 10,000 miles now with us, and
oh yeah, over that 10,000 last year.
10,000 last year.
Yeah,
so
about
never an
10
issue.
This year.
What's number two?
Okay, and then this is kind of along with that. Number two is decide where your dog will sleep in your rig. So, especially if you're full-timing, when you move out of your house into, I don't know, 380 square feet, every square foot is so valuable, and you are going to have to use some of that dedicated space to your dog. So our dog slept in the closet. I had the bottom of the closet. I know some people put pack and plays in there if you have a baby, but that meant we had to keep our closet clear, and we just always had our dog bed there, so he slept in there.
And he had a bed in the living room as well.
A little bed in the living room.
So that was his space. And
it was his space.
We had toys for him in each location, and
yeah,
and it was his space. So pack dogs are pack animals, and they prefer to have their space, and mostly with the pack. So he slept with us in our bedroom with his pack.
Unless I was putting the girls down, then he would actually follow us into the bunkhouse, and he would sleep in there until I got up from putting the girls from the bed down. So just when you're thinking about how you're moving in and where everything goes, don't forget you need to dedicate a space for your dog. Okay, so number three is, and this seems obvious, but don't forget to pack for the dog. Whether it's just a weekend trip or a longer trip or even full-time, dogs come with stuff, right?
Yep, toys, dog food, some have medicine.
Yeah.
They have all kinds of things.
Well, and then
some have crates.
Right.
So.
And what we didn't really think about is you need to probably keep your dog food sealed in a plastic container or a bin and have it out of the way, because sometimes, you know, campgrounds can attract rodents, and that dog food, whether you keep it in your basement or something, if it's unsealed in that paper bag, it could attract unwanted pests. So make sure that you have a place to store the dog food. And then you may look at purchasing a few things. When we got on the road, we got a dog tie-off lead, because you're not allowed to leave dogs unattended, but we wanted him to enjoy the campground with us, so he had a dog tie-off lead. And then he has like an outdoor dog bed, so he wasn't on the gravel or the dirt getting dirty. And I know some people even travel with like dog fencing, probably for smaller dogs, but Presley didn't have that, but he did have a few other things. And then don't forget, like, they'll need toys too. So do you need to store something or have those toys and balls and things, you know, so they're not chewing on things that you don't want them to chew on.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to give number 4 to you. Provide exercise and mental stimulation, since you helped with a little bit.
Stimulation. Tip number 4. So travel days is probably the most difficult time to do that. So you really have to plan your rest area stops or areas where they have a dog park. Some really nice truck stops and gas stations now have dog parks, so it's good to get them out there and get them off leash possibly, so you can throw a ball or do whatever. But the most important part is to make sure you stop periodically, let them go potty, stretch their legs just like we need our legs stretched, they need their legs stretched. So just remember that. And then at the campgrounds, a lot of the campgrounds, every campground I can think of has some sort of dog park or facilities for dogs to go do their business. KOA probably has the best one. It's Camp K9.
Camp K9.
Camp K9. They usually have really nice dog parks.
Or agility, playgrounds.
Things you can jump up on. They all have the quintessential fake fire plug there, so the dog has to potty on that. So that's all good at the campgrounds. And then, you got to make sure that you just don't let your dog out right before you go to bed, right at your campsite to go to the restroom. Not cool. So you got to allow time to walk them to the dog park, even at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Get them down there, let them do their business.
Or early in the morning or in the rain.
First thing in the morning, you got to do that, and most dogs can make it all night, so that's good news. But the most important thing at campgrounds and anywhere is pick up after your dog.
Yeah.
I mean, so many signs, so many complaints about dog owners not picking up after their dogs. Please do that. Most campgrounds provide bags, and it's very simple and easy to do.
Yeah, that kind of goes into research the campground rules before you go. And one of them is our PSA, you just said it, is pick up after your pet. Nothing irritates people that are not dog people or even dog people more than stepping in or seeing the poop. It's just not cool, people. So pick up after your dog. But you'll need to research campgrounds before you go. Some campgrounds have a limit on how many dogs. You want to tell them how many we had next to us?
Oh, just recently, actually just right before Presley passed, there was a couple next to us had 5 dogs, little dogs that tend to bark more than big dogs. So
they were very good owners, but that's the most we've ever seen, right? 5 dogs.
Doing their best, but they were weekenders and they were introducing their dogs to a different environment, and they just barked a lot, and they left them behind when they left, and they barked even more when they were in their rig. So
yeah, so and then some campgrounds have breed restrictions. So these are not our rules, and I know some people are very offended by these rules, but you know, if you have one of those breeds that might be restricted, like a pit bull or a Doberman or a Rottweiler or a Husky, you need to make sure that that campground doesn't have any rules that prohibit that. And then finally, like, you can't leave your dog outside unattended. It's not really your yard. So even if you do have a tie-off or a lead or a fence, if you're not around, your dog needs to be either with you or inside your rig.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So then that kind of gets into number 6, decide what to do with a dog when going on activities. So we tried to take Presley just about everywhere, but there were a lot of places that we couldn't take Presley, whether it was a restaurant that didn't have a dog patio,
yeah,
or
a lot of state and national parks don't allow dogs on the trails.
Yeah.
So,
and we never broke those rules.
No, we didn't.
I didn't know about it in the Badlands.
Yeah.
It seemed normal. So
you'll probably see some pictures that we post these in the national parks, but
oh well.
We stretched the rules.
We stretched the rules, but so like, what are you going to do with your dog while you're there? And this is what we found worked best for Presley. Is we drew down all the shades, tried to make it a dark environment. We made sure that the air conditioner was on and set at a certain temperature, and then we turn on some sound, either a sound machine or music, so he's not like listening for us all the time. And so you just want to make that nice environment to the dog so that they can like maybe sleep instead of like be waiting at the door for you. And then that brings up a good point about boondocking. You want to talk about boondocking?
You know, boondocking is you don't have electricity. So keeping the temperature in the rig consistent and comfortable for your pet is difficult to do. So something to remember when you go boondocking, you don't have air conditioning, you do have heat if you're in a cold environment, but it's just important to keep that temperature in your rig comfortable for your pet and safe. And some people even have temperature monitors. Like the Waggle, or there's some other ones that monitor the temperature in your rig and sends you a signal if it gets out of range. Problem with boondocking is they work on cell. There's typically not cell service either. So boondocking with pets, you have to take a little bit more care to make sure your pet is safe. Right. And then you can always check like the app, Bring Fido. It's an app and it's a website. And that's a really great resource for you. They spend a lot of time on reviews, whether it's restaurants or like even some stores that you can bring your dog to. So you can maybe check beforehand if it's dog friendly place to go to. And then we found Arizona to be very dog friendly everywhere we went, mainly because it gets so hot. So in some of those national parks, dogs were allowed, and state parks. A lot of places you could bring your dog everywhere because they didn't want people leaving their dogs inside rigs. So Arizona is very friendly for dogs. And then, you know, if that's not an option to leave your dog in the rig, or if you've gotten a complaint from the campground that they're barking, you might want to look into bark collars or deterrents, or simply going to care.com and maybe looking for a pet sitter or dog sitter. We actually stayed at the Grand Canyon Railway Resort earlier, and they had a pet resort. So while we went to the Grand Canyon, you could check in your dog into the pet resort, and then they had a little fun for the day too. So there's options up there, but it's just something that you kind of got to think through and plan through when you're doing your activities. Okay. All right. What are we up to? Number 7. All right, so prepare for the possibility that your dog could get lost. Now, this is something that I was kind of worried about just because we traveled so much. Although, has our dog ever been within, he won't go, 20 feet away from us. He never leaves his pack. He never left his pack. But there are some dogs that are runners. Yeah. So I encourage you, if your dog's not already microchipped, make sure it's microchipped, and then keep your information up to date. Like, make sure you have the right cell phone number, and while you don't have a transient address, maybe it's your domicile address, just something that if your dog's lost, they can scan that microchip and find you. And then we actually, and John, you'll put a picture up on the screen, we actually got Presley a collar that said Presley Nins. I put his last name on it because we do have a campground sign that we put out to say, the Nins family. That way if someone saw us. And then on the back side, I put what our rig was and that we were full-timers.
and our telephone numbers. So if he did get out the campground, they can maybe look for our family name or the rig type and like go door to door and knock on the door and try to return our dog. So
good. That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, number 8, have a plan in case of an emergency.
Yeah. Well, we definitely had emergency last on October 4th, last Monday. So obviously, when we found him incoherent on the floor, we Googled veterinary hospitals. We called the front desk. We didn't know if there was anything close or not. It was after 5 o'clock. Most things were closed. The thing I got out of it most was when we're checking in, to just ask the people at the office, we have a pet. If anything would happen, what's the closest veterinary hospital? What's the closest veterinarian during regular hours? So you kind of have that information ahead of time. I know it seems like over planning, but since we've been through this now, we want to overplan when we plan for emergencies for our pets, just like we plan for emergencies with our children. We know where hospitals are and those kinds of things. So just keep that little plan in the back of your head at all times, and hopefully it never happens to you, but if it does, you're prepared.
Yeah. Okay, and then have a plan for dog grooming and vet care. So this is something, our dog was a golden doodle, so he needed to get groomed every 6 to 8 weeks, and this is something we really struggled with last year, and I think we've talked about it a little bit or on our Instagram is, I would call up even 2 weeks in advance to a place that we were going to, and it was during COVID, but a lot of times the local groomers, I wanted to try to help local people based on reviews. They would say we're not taking new dogs because of COVID, or we're booked up 6, 8, 9, 10 months.
Yeah.
So we finally discovered, why didn't I think about this earlier? But PetSmart has an app, and they're a pretty big chain. And I don't know if some of the other pet chains have this, but you can go online and you can schedule it. So for instance, we were in Kalispell, and I knew we were going and working towards it. So when Presley had his last grooming appointment, I knew about 8 to 12 weeks we'd be in Kalispell. I went on and I booked it for the day that we arrived, and he got cut there. So we've done that several times, and that really helped. And then that kind of goes back to the veterinarian that you were talking about, is you need a plan for vet care too.
Plan for vet care. We winter in Florida, so we do have a veterinarian in the Orlando area that we took Presley to. But as you mentioned, PetSmart, they do have, what's the name of the?
Banfield.
Banfield is a veterinarian that's within the PetSmart in most all of them.
Right.
So is just to know that that's also available for you for a possible vet care beyond the annual exam that we get in the Orlando area, but just to have somebody there in case he needs more shots, more medicine.
Well, yeah, you have to keep your shots up to date, heartworm, flea and tick.
Right.
And when you're doing your shots, you need to talk to your vet, hey, we'll be traveling. So you might want to get, I forget what it's called, is it Lupo or something? The standing water, if dogs get in standing water, they can get very ill. So there's that vaccine because you might be near some areas like that. Or there's even Lyme disease for, you don't know where you're going, it might be a tick area. So just, you need to have a plan for vet care. So if you are always in the winter and you winter in Florida and you have that one vet, but Banfield might be a great idea if you're already using them for PetSmart. They keep all your information so you're not having to constantly give shot records, and then you can go anywhere with it. So.
Okay.
All right, so rule number 10, and it's not just for dogs, but it's for RVers in general, is go slow. So
slow is pro.
Slow is pro. So this is great for everyone on the family, not just the dog, but we have a 3-3-3 rule. So you want to tell them what our 3-3-3 rule is?
So our 3-3-3, and I think some of the YouTubers do 2-2-2, but 3-3-3 works for us. We never travel more than 300 miles when we're on travel day.
And that works out to be about 6 hours in an RV.
We try to stop before 3 p.m. That gives you time to get to the campground, get set up while it's still light, take your dog for a walk, show your kids the playground, make sure your Wi-Fi is all set up before it gets dark out. So all those things, if you get there before 3, usually works out better. And then the last one is to stay at least 3 days at the campground so that you're not moving every day. Now there are times that we break that rule, because if we were making a beeline from Montana to Michigan, and we had to do it in 5-6 days, I forget what it was. So we couldn't stay 3 nights at each campground, but when we got to Michigan, though, we stayed there for 30 days, so we kind of made up for it. So anyway, the 3-3-3 rule works for kids, works for yourselves, works for your pets. It just makes life a lot easier if you stick to some kind of rule, whether it's 333, 222, whatever it may be.
Yeah, so that is our 10 tips. There's more information and links and things we'll put below, and also in our blog. In our blog, there's also a couple articles that show I found a couple of them, the 7 friendliest campgrounds or the 10 best places to camp with your dog. So be sure and check that out. And then just to wrap up, like, everyone wants to know, how are the twins doing, and will we get another dog?
Yeah, so we're in the decision process right now. It's only been a week tomorrow that Presley's passed, so we're looking at...
Left a huge hole. Don't know what to do.
We're looking at new pets already, a replacement. Obviously, we're going to go with some sort of doodle again, because we don't like shedding inside our small space. So we're looking. We've had had my daughter's breeder reach out to us and offer us a pretty significant discount, which was very nice. We kind of want to get somewhere, though, where we're settled to help train, because moving every 2 or 3 days with a new puppy might be difficult, so we may wait till we get more settled in Florida this winter. The twins are handling it a lot better than Cheryl, that's for sure.
I wasn't even a dog person before Presley.
Yeah. So we're looking at that, and as we wrap up this video, I put together a little montage tribute to the life of Presley Monroe Nens. We named him after Elvis Presley. His middle name is after Marilyn Monroe, 2 global icons that I love. That's how he got his name, and he lived up to it. He was truly an icon. So as we go out on this video, we thank you for watching. We thank you for subscribing, and please subscribe if you have not. And we all hopefully hope that you all have bright days ahead. Just like we're hoping we have more bright days ahead, because losing your pet sure really put a damper on our bright days ahead mantra. But as each day goes by, we're celebrating his life and not thinking about his passing. So please enjoy this little montage that we put together as a tribute to Presley, and thank you for watching, and like I said, may you all have bright days ahead.
Bye, family.
Thank you.